Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today, I thought we would make a card using Pink Fresh Studios Dreamers Forest. They've got a sample back here in dark blues and greens. And I knew when I saw this set, I wanted to use it. I want to do like a fall themed card. We will also be using the 6-piece coordinating stencil set. And I already have that set up in my Misti. I did pull out the foam mat because this is a red rubber stamp. And I will be using a Honeybee Intense Black to get started. I want to make sure that I have that paper down in that corner because we will be restamping. And I just want to make sure that's nice and snug there. We don't want to get a double image when we bring that back in after all that hard work. Perfect. So I've got my image here. We're going to go ahead and get that. You know what? Let's do it this way. We're going to go ahead and get that on our sticky mat. And I want to leave a little bit at the top so I can put my ink pads there. So I've got my image on my sticky mat. We can bring in our first stencil. And I did want to say, when I first started with this, I got very, very frustrated because I was lining up my stencil and the top images were lining up perfectly, but then my bottom images were off. So I kept trying to adjust and I got really, really frustrated. So I actually went over to the Pink Fresh website and I looked at some samples. And there are a couple samples on there where the stenciling is off, but I also found a disclaimer on their site that states that the red rubber stamps do have variations and it is best to shift your stencil. So then I didn't feel so bad and I was a little bit more confident and it worked so much easier. So I'm just going to be doing one tree at a time. We need to bring in some tape. I want to tape that stencil down, but I am only going to be doing one area at a time. So I'm right now concentrating on this tree in the corner, and I'm just going to tape that where I want it. Then I will mask the other area. So these two trees are very similar. So let's start with these. I want to make these orange. And we do not get fall here like other areas do. We have a couple cottonwood trees over in the meadow that get a little yellow and then the leaves fall off. They don't really get, we don't get orange and reds and all that here in Southern California. So I wanted to do something where we could get lots of color in there. So we will first start with clementine. And I'm just going to get some color on there. Light color. And then I will come in with persimmon and just hit the base of those leaves. Well, it looks like we got a little more than just the base, but that's okay. Then I am going to give that a little wipe. I will pull this up and we will readjust for our next set of leaves, which will actually be this tree right in the center. And once I figured out that it was not me or my stencil that we needed to readjust, I just felt so much better about the whole thing because I love Pink Fresh Studio stencils and I didn't know if it was me, if it was the stencil. So let's just put a little tape right there just to be safe. We're coming in again with our clementine. I just love the colors of fall and we don't get that here. It's a little rainy today. We got quite a bit of rain last night. What's the weather like where you are? Do you get snow? Do you get summer year round? We pretty much get summer year round. So we're just doing shading at the base of those leaves. And then we can come over and do this other tree that is very similar. That's already looking so pretty, and we've only halfway done one stencil. And these stencils do have quite a bit of pieces that stick out and are delicate, so you just want to be careful with those. These tree branches, you don't want to rub your stencil or your rug against those and bend them back. So I will just do these other leaves exactly the same way. So now let's do our corner leaves down here. So now we can take that stencil off and decide which trees we want to do now. I think we're going to do the trees that look like our cottonwoods. So I will be making those yellow. And I'm just repositioning that stencil for that tree. And I will mask off again. So for these, I think I want to use sweet mustard. Just get that nice and covered. Wipe it off. Let's put a little bit of clementine just to take a little bit of that brightness out. Then we can reposition to this other tree on the left-hand side. Then we've got one more tree that I'm calling the cottonwood down here on the bottom. Just repositioning that stencil and masking. Now we can come in and concentrate on our two trees that will be green. It really is easy to line up if you just concentrate on one section at a time. And it didn't take a whole lot more time either. So for these trees, I will be using olive and spruce tips. Everything I use today will be listed and linked in the description below. Let's get some tape on there, just in case. And we do want to be a little bit careful with those leaves. So we've got our olive on there. Let's come in with a little bit of spruce tips. Now, spruce tips has a little hint of blue in it. So I'm just going to go around the edges. I just want it to look like the colors are changing. Then we can come down and do our other tree. And I'm just going to use a little bit of olive on this one because we're just doing the inside of the leaves. I'll look at it and make sure I didn't miss any areas. And then we can move on to stencil number 2. So stencil number 2, we've already got our greens out. Let's just continue with our greens. And I think we will also do our little grassy hill here since that is lined up. And for that, I will use grassy knoll. And I'm just going to lightly color that in. And then I will come in with some olive and darken up the edges. So now I'm just lining up that other green tree, and I will color that in exactly the same way after I mask off. And that is coming along perfect. So now I will position my stencil on my trees that I am calling the cottonwoods. Let's do those first. And since this is a different stencil, I am still coming in strong with that sweet mustard, but I'm going to add just a little bit more of the clementine kind of on the base of those flowers. And I think we will use this small brush. And then I will go ahead and do my other 2 cottonwood trees the same way. So I've got my stencil positioned here to do this little round tree. And I think first we will come in with some limoncello, and concentrate that at the top. I don't use this color that often, but I thought it would be a nice contrast with some key lime, and we will get the changing of the colors there. Now we can concentrate on our orange leaves. And I think for my orange leaves here, I am going to make those solid persimmon because I want variation in my colors. So let's go straight persimmon, and that is dark, but that's good because I really want my trees to be changing colors. Now I will go ahead and do my other trees that are the orange in that same way. And that is so pretty. That's what I had in mind. I wanted the bright colors of fall, and I love it. Now we've got stencil 3, and I want to do that other round tree first. So I'm just going to make sure I mask off, bring back in my yellow, my limoncello, and my key lime, and I will do that exactly like the first one. And I love how those two blend together. Now I am just repositioning my stencil, and I am going to do all of those trees that I call the cottonwoods the same way I did on the first 2 stencils using sweet mustard and clementine. And that is looking so good. Now I am going to concentrate on my orange trees, doing the same thing. I'm just repositioning and ink blending those colors in. And we are done with stencil number 3. We can get that off of there. And that was really not that much of a big deal to reposition every single time. And it just makes such a difference. I love it. I'm so glad that I saw on their site that's what you needed to do with the red rubber stamps. It really does make a difference. So now we can bring in stencil number 4. And for this stencil, these are our trees. And I am going to use dough. So I will just line each one up. What I'm going to do here is I'm not even going to do masking. I'm going to get some ink on my brush. I'm just going to line up my first tree, color that in, and then move on to my next. And I am definitely going heavy-handed here. I want my bases of my trees to really show up. And let's see what we got. Oh, I love it. I love those colors. That is so pretty. And now we are on to stencil number 4, and this is going to fill in our grassy area. And I am going to do this in sections. So I'm bringing in a big brush. I've got grassy knoll here, and I'm just going to do sections. So this section on my right lines up fairly well. So I'm going to hold that down and come in and do that section first. And I actually want it to be a little bit darker. So I will also come in with some olive just around the edges. Then we can reposition and do the section on the left. I'll hold that, come in with my grassy knoll. That's pretty bright. That's why I wanted to come in with the olive on top of it, just to tone that bright green down a little bit. So now I'll do the bottom right, and then we can do the other quarter. And that is beautiful. I love how that is coming out. I wanted those bright oranges and then the deep greens. It's so pretty. So stencil number 6, it has our clouds. We can highlight those, or I'm just going to skip my clouds actually and just add some sky in there. And I think this one lines up pretty well. I don't think we need to adjust. I just want to make sure that that is in place. And for this, I will be using sky blue. I've got my big brush, so we can just get color on there really quickly. I will hold down that cloud because, again, those clouds are just loose. So now we can bring in a brush and just kind of highlight around those clouds. I just want them to stand out. Oh, so pretty. I absolutely love that. I think it came out great. So now we can build our card after we stamp this again. So I'm going to place that back in my Misti. Make sure that I have that in that corner because I do not want to get a double image. So I'm just making sure that is right back where it was originally. And this time we are going to heat emboss. I want all of those colors and everything to really stand out. So we need to get some powder on there. And for this, I will bring in VersaFine. And this is always the scary part. We kind of have to cross our fingers and hope we got that positioned in the same place. All right, I'm crossing my fingers. And that looks perfect. Oh my goodness. I can see one tree up there. It needs a little more pressure. I love that. Let's do it again. That is perfect. I love that. Oh my goodness, that is so pretty. So let's get this powdered up. And I am just using Hero Arts Clear. All right, I think I got that whole thing covered. Let's heat emboss. So I made sure that I got my heat gun nice and hot before I started embossing that. And now I'm just kind of twisting and turning it just to make sure I got all that powder melted. And I think I did. So while that was cooling, I did go ahead and clean my stamp so I could get that pigment ink off of there. So I've got my card base, and then I've got a postage stamp die, and I cut out the largest one. I am going to go ahead and trim down my panel that we just worked on to fit inside my stitching marks. And that is coming along. So I trimmed my panel and it fits right inside the stitching marks of the postage edge die. I've got foam tape behind that, and then I've also got foam tape behind the postage edge die. And now we just need to add our sentiment and some bling. For my sentiment, I heat embossed in black from Beyond Happy. I love this stamp and die set, and I think that fits perfect. Life is beautiful, and so are you. I just positioned that sentiment so it didn't block too much of my pretty trees and scenery. And then I went ahead and I added some butterscotch glitter drops. And I just love the colors on this card. I think it is so fall. And when you move the card, you see the glitter from those glitter drops. And then you also see the shine from that embossing powder on your outline and on your sentiment, and it is so pretty. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please give me a thumbs up. Please leave me a comment, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.